Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
So we are going to talk about apartment rentals in Las Vegas and the prices. Okay, so we are going to just I'm going to jump right into a slide because I know you guys fast forward to the slide whenever we have a video with slides. So we're going to put the slide up right now and we're going to talk, and we're in a little box down in the corner while we're talking about the median rent. Okay, so here's the deal. Median rent. Now what that means is half the rents are above, half are below. It's the median number. It's not the average. Green is more affordable, and the darker red it gets is less affordable in total dollars. Now, before we go into the specific areas, an argument can be made that the value is the value. So if you're just because it's less doesn't mean it's a better deal. It just means it's just a cheaper area, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to start with the green, $0 to $850 median rent, and you'll notice that most of those dark green areas are in 89030 and 89169, and then we'll just jump to the light green too. Those so two things about that area. If you put a map of Vegas from like 50 years ago, that would be Las Vegas. That's it. Okay. And older places had much smaller apartments because we're only talking about, this is apartment rental. This is only apartment, right? And when you have smaller apartments, they rent for less. Mm-hmm. When you have bigger ones, they rent for more. Mm-hmm. So some of this actually just represents how apartments have grown over the last, because I lived one time in an apartment and it was like a really nice luxury 3-bedroom apartment. Mm-hmm. Super nice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then as you see the yellow areas is like the next phase of expansion of Las Vegas, which is the west side of town there. And then that line that you see is Rainbow Boulevard. So where the yellow ends, the western edge of that is Rainbow. Everything on the other side of that is west. And then you have the orange, and that's the next sort of phase you can see as the town's growing out. And the apartments are getting bigger. And then, of course, the red area where they're super expensive, and that's the south. It's super nice down there. And the west, Summerlin, in that area. And then parts of the northwest and north, rents are more. Apartment rents. And remember, these are only apartment rents. Okay, now let's talk about two things. Mm-hmm. Desirability. Mm-hmm. That is a real thing.
It is a real thing, yes. So, when I look at this map and at the colors, what I see is your typical progression of dwellings as far as age. The newer they are, the more updated they are, the more desirable they are. Look, we all like new things. We all like new amenities. So, of course, the newer apartments are going to have the space the way you want it, the kitchen the way you want it, the bathrooms the way you want them. They're going to have the parks around them and other amenities. And then, of course, the older places, they're not going to have those things because the standards were different when those places were built. So it's not necessarily that there's anything particularly wrong with them, but you're dealing with old construction, with old amenities, yeah, and with old standards. And not that there's anything wrong with being old,
but that old.
But our tastes change, and we all want the newest, shiniest thing.
Okay, so absolutely, everything she said is correct. Another, we talked about this before, where remember you have smaller places and bigger places. Of course, bigger place is going to rent for more, mm-hmm, but there are smaller rentals that are further out, but. When you're in a master planned area where you have a pool and you're close to theaters and restaurants, and some of these places are literally in like a pretty rough area. It's not planned out very well. It's you have like strip malls and stuff where it's just, it's not super desirable.
Right.
You had like your apartment complex is a dirt lot next to it, and there's no pool, and there's police sirens going off, all night, hours of the night.
That's part of it. But the other part of it is just, again, as cities have grown, they have gone toward more more city toward better city planning and that sort of thing. So the older neighborhoods simply don't have the same city planning that the newer neighborhoods have, which again goes back to amenities and parks and schools and that sort of thing. So when you're looking at the older places, they're simply non-conforming, as we like to say in real estate, which means that you have a whole lot of mixed use. So you might have an apartment building here, then like Todd said, you'll have a strip mall, maybe you'll have some other commercial space, and then you'll have single family and then more apartments and that sort of thing. So it's not, there's not conformity, there's nothing congruent about it. It's kind of haphazard. So if you were building SimCity, you would not do well with those parts of town, right?
No, the game would punish you.
The game would punish you, exactly. Yeah. So as cities have grown, and particularly maybe over the last 30 years, cities have learned how to grow properly and how to maximize the use of space and how to make their city and the new developments be attractive to people for living purposes and for quality of life and that sort of thing.
What's interesting about this is if you took any other city, New York City, San Francisco, San Diego, downtown Los Angeles, Austin, Texas, where they have high rises, you would find that the more expensive apartments would be in the city.
Right.
Like if you're in New York, we should get a New York City map and like bash the New York City. Not really bash it, but just talk about how expensive it is. And then show the parts of town, because it's, you want to live in this city. If you don't want to, look, if you live in New York City, you want to be able to live on maybe a residential area like Chelsea. And think about it, if you work in the financial district, you just want to be able to walk down to the street from your apartment, walk right into the subway, go 2 or 3 stops on the train, walk out and go up into your Wall Street investment bank, and do whatever you do, make phone calls in an investment bank all day. And then after a couple martinis, you want to just jump on a train and go 3 stops and go back up to your apartment. You don't want to live out like out in Queens and have to spend an hour coming, to work because you have to get up earlier and all that. So apartments in Queens will be less than apartments in Manhattan, and especially in the areas of town that are either more desirable because they're by Central Park or they're in parts of the financial district that are desirable, and they're closer to where a lot of people work, right? But Vegas is not that kind of city because we don't really have a downtown. We don't have like a high-rise center where everybody works because people work up and down the whole strip.
Right. So our downtown, we really kind of have a couple different parts. We have the touristy downtown, which is the Las Vegas Strip, and then we have the downtown, which is kind of the original downtown for Las Vegas off of Fremont Street, where we have the courthouses and we have Lawyerville and that sort of thing.
And if you're looking at this chart, it's really 89101. That's kind of the downtown area where Fremont Street is, and then all that south area that's all green there is the rest of the strip.
Right. So we also don't have a financial district, obviously, like New York City does. So our industry is a lot different because of the way Las Vegas is and because of the way of our economy. Right. So we have the tourist core, which is the Las Vegas Strip and a little bit of the Fremont Street, and then we have kind of on either side of that, we have some light industry, and then you're starting to move out into more of a residential, and then you go out the suburbs, and then we have some interesting things kind of going on both on the north end and on the south end, where we do have some commercial, we do have some warehouses and some manufacturing and that sort of thing. So Las Vegas is kind of a whole different ball game than it is in a metropolitan area like New York or Philadelphia or Chicago or someplace like that.
The other thing that you can glean from looking at this median apartment rent chart is that if you took the same home prices by zip code and overlaid it, it would be very similar.
Correct.
It would be very similar. The green areas would be the less expensive homes, we'll just say. And the red areas would be the more expensive homes. The super high-end, guard-gated, master planned, crazy communities are in those red areas.
Right.
They're in all those red areas.
You know, and what's interesting is, as somebody who's lived here for a long time, some of the orange areas are kind of interesting to me because some of them are pretty desirable, actually. So it's interesting that they're more affordable than the red areas. And I think that is more of a function of the age of those neighborhoods. So we're going back to that age. Those tend to be older neighborhoods. So because they're older, again, we're dealing with not today's amenities, but yesterday's amenities. So that is reflected in that price.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that apartment rents, 2 factors, size of apartment, and then the other factor is location in the town.
Right.
So we just want to do a quick update that to show this information. This came across this chart. We thought it was something we wanted to talk about. We're going to find some more housing related stuff and talk about the specific areas of town and why they're more desirable, and then go into some detail with the amenities in those areas and what drives people to want to live in those parts of towns. If you ever want to find out the parts of town that are the best places to live, go find the people who have really spent their whole lives. And then you have 2 types of people: the type of people who are still living in their childhood area because they're just familiar with it, and then where they live now.
Right.
Because I grew up here, and most of the people that I know live in the red parts, mostly on the west side of town, but they live in the red parts.
Right. So
if they can afford to, they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So most of the people we know do live in the red parts, both on the south end and on the west end, and on the north end. Actually, we have quite a few friends on the north end too.
Yep. It's desirable. It's more residential. It's better for, you get around town pretty easy, and all that is reflected. Oh, the other reason that, the reason there's not areas outside of that's pretty much natural boundaries.
Right.
So the west side of town, you have some mountains, you have national park. North side of town, you have mountains. You have a lake on the east side of town and mountains. And south side of town, you just have...
Well, south side of town, we do have mountains, but as I like to say, here in Las Vegas, we just go ahead and we carve them out and we put houses on them anyway.
Yeah.
And so if you've been to Las Vegas recently, particularly if you've flown in and you've gotten a chance to fly in maybe from California, as you fly in over 15, you will see the beautifully carved mountains that are now on that end of town that have now become part of Henderson, and they've built a massive master plan community out there, and we will talk about that on another video. But yes, we do carve our mountains and we put master plan communities on them.
That would be a good one to have a drone video.
Yes.
Where the drone flies
fun.
over the mountain and you get to see everything.
Actually, what I would really like, Todd, is if we could rent a Cessna, and I would get to fly it a little bit, and you could go ahead and video that.
Or I could fly it.
Okay, well, if you insist on that, fine. You can fly it, and I'll do the video.
Since I am the pilot.
That's just a minor detail.
I'm the pilot of the house.
Minor detail, my friend.
I'm the pilot. Okay. Thanks for watching.
Yes. Subscribe to the video if you liked it, if you thought it was entertaining. Share it with your friends. Hit the notification bell. Leave us love notes, and we'll see you on the next video. And if you think that Todd should let me fly the Cessna, encourage him in the comments to let me fly it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.